Hello, don't you dare touch that mouse. You are right where you are supposed to be. And is on the PowerNomics YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Claude Anderson, probably your only Black forensic historian in this nation. Today I got a couple of things I want to talk to you about. First of all, to let you know that I'm here to do what's never been done, and that is to connect the dots between where Black folk are, what got them where they are, and what's been keeping them where they are. And we're going to start by giving you the right data and the right understandings. Now, my first commitment is something I learned years ago as a young man. Back as a young man, I said to myself once, in looking at some historical documents, that I'm going to do something to try to take care of the most beaten, enslaved, Jim Crow, maldistributed people in the world, and that is the Black people in this nation. They've been beat up on by every generation of every ethnic group, every religious group, every cultural group, every language group. Everybody has exploited, misused, and enriched themselves off of Black folk. So I said to myself, I got to do something. And the first thing that I said I was going to do, when I looked around, I saw a picture of a praying Black slave. And what he was saying is that he said, I pray that one day there shall rise among my people a warrior who would know our suffering and would be able to fight our battles. Well, I'm here. I might not be that warrior, but I am going to try to fight Black folks' battles. I made a commitment to myself back in those days to say, anytime I get a chance, I'm going to try to bring some justice to those beaten, underclass, subordinated, and lynched, castrated, misused, and abused people called Black Americans. Now, in doing that, I said, how should I go about doing it? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get as much education as I could. And so I was blessed. I earned about 6 college degrees, everything from social economics to politics to education and to business. And I'm very proud of those accomplishments. Then I said, now how do I best use those things? Oh, how do I get any blessings or return for having acquired all these different degrees? It happened just like I anticipated and was delighted to have happen. And that is, I got appointed, first of all, to some of the best positions a man could ever have. In education, for instance, I got a chance to teach every grade level from the elementary school levels to high schools, to junior colleges, and to 2 or 3 universities. And lastly, I got a chance to be appointed to be over education for the state of Florida for about 7 years, from 1970 to 1977. That was a very unique appointment. Governor Ruben Askew appointed me to be over everything in education in the state of Florida. That's from the elementary school all the way to the graduate schools in both the private sector and in the public sector. That was very special. And I enjoyed doing that. And I tried to bring some justice and some better educational opportunities for Black folk and Black children in the state of Florida. Next thing I knew, I said, now what else am I going to get for having acquired all these different degrees? Then ironically, I was appointed to be the first Black in the history of the nation to ever be to manage a presidential election for Jimmy Carter. I was Jimmy Carter's campaign manager in the South and in Florida. I didn't say I was I was participating in a political campaign, like passing out literature or knocking on doors. I was the actual manager, a Black man managing the presidential election. Following that, I also had a chance to be the deputy political strategist for Bill Clinton in Maryland. As I made twice, I had those opportunities to be a manager for presidential elections. Secondly, I got a chance to run political campaigns for attorney generals, for governors, for mayors, for state legislators, and for general elections for school board members. And so I got a chance to understand the real nature of politics. So I appreciated that. But most importantly, because of my running the campaign for Jimmy Carter, I got the chance to be the first Black appointed to Assistant Secretary in the United States Department of Commerce and be a sub-cabinet member for a president. In that position, I also got a chance to operate. That's something no Black had done before, and that was to operate as a advisor and a director and a chairman for economic development for governors in the southeastern states, and advocated and advised them in developing economic opportunities in the southeastern states, period. I head up trade missions for the governors in the South, in the Caribbean, in Africa, and also in Europe. And so that was a very unique opportunity. Also in that position with the president, I had a chance to also be able to over the surplus property program for the federal government, where my signature alone, I could sign a piece of paper and give away surplus property to anybody I wanted, anything that the government had. All I needed was to get the serial numbers of that property. I had 45 member staff down in Charleston, South Carolina. And that was a very unique opportunity. It allowed me to have a chance to appoint and to push through the election or the appointment of 3 Black federal judges. And so I appreciate those opportunities. And when I left that administration, I went down and said, what can I do about business with all these degrees I've gotten? Well, I had a chance also to be appointed to be the director and help set up Miami Capital, Miami Citywide, and the allocation of resources there out of the Department of Commerce where I had been appointed. We pulled about $9 million out of there and about another $1 million out of the Department of Labor, and built what's called a Miami Capital, Miami Citywide. I had about a $10 million revolving loan fund. And over the course of about 2 or 3 years, I appointed and set up and established 57 different businesses in Miami Capital and Miami-Dade, and funds for South Florida and for Dade County in general. And so then I said, well, how about education again? Well, again, a chance popped up again. I had a chance to be a director for special education. And that was for disruptive students. And I was an administrator, and as well as a teacher in that program for disruptive students, kids who have been kicked out of schools. So I've had some fantastic opportunities. And now I said, now, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Am I fulfilling my commitment to that Black slave who was praying, saying, I hope that someday there will rise among our people a warrior who would know our suffering and would fight our battles. But knowing there's a difference, simply knowing that slaves were suffering is knowing why they were suffering. There should be some understanding of why they have been put in this position for such a long period of time, for 360 years of slavery and another 100 years of semi-slavery. And that's what we're going to be talking about on the PowerNomics channel. And what I call Connecting the Dots is bringing about some understanding as well as facts about why Black folk have been suffering for so long in this country, have been abused, misused, and ignored, why they've never been able to acquire any significant amount of property, resource, privileges, and rights that all other people were given just by entering the country as immigrants. We're going to be talking about all these issues. And on Connecting the Dots, on our program that should arise about at least once every week, let's say every Tuesday, for about 15 minutes, I'm going to select an issue that from the old days or something from the current affairs, and try to connect the dots about why and how they impact Black people. And in the course of that, we'll give you a better understanding about what Black folk ought to do, how they got where they are to get out of it. And so I look forward to seeing you on the YouTube channel for PowerNomics called Connecting the Dots. And thanks again for staying with me. And again, when you come on, use that mouse in the right way. Do not bypass this YouTube channel. Stop there. I'll be looking for you. In the meantime, be blessed and stay strong and keep the faith. This is Dr. Anderson signing off.